My neighbor blasted music every night for months. I asked nicely. I filed noise complaints. Nothing. So I bought floodlights and aimed them right at his bedroom window. He moved his bed, but not before leaving a note in my mailbox: "You picked this fight." What he did next made me call the police. I live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Columbus, Ohio. I bought this house in 2015. It's nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, an old oak tree in the front yard, and a little porch where I drink my morning coffee. It's peaceful. Or, at least, it was. Things changed in February when the house next to mine sold. I noticed the moving truck early one Saturday morning. By noon, a guy in his 30s, tall, stocky, wore gym shorts even in the snow, was carrying in boxes and blasting music from his truck. Like, really blasting it. Rap with heavy bass that made my windows rattle. At first, I figured, alright, new guy celebrating. One day won't kill me. It wasn't one day. It was every single night. Not just weekends. Not just parties. I mean every night, from about 9 p.m. until sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning. Loud enough that I could hear the lyrics through the walls. Loud enough that dishes in my cabinet would sometimes buzz. I work early. I'm a supply tech at a hospital. That means waking up at 5:30 a.m. most days. Sleep isn't a luxury for me, it's survival. After the 3rd night, I knocked on his door. He answered with a beer in hand, shirtless, wearing flip-flops even though it was 30 degrees outside. "Hey, man," I said, "I just wanted to ask if you could turn it down a bit at night. It's been kind of loud." He grinned. Not the friendly kind. More like he was laughing at me. "It's my house, bro," he said, then took a sip from his beer. "I work nights. This is my daytime." That was the end of the conversation. So I started documenting everything. I kept a log, dates, times, volume. I filed 3 noise complaints with the city. I even got a decibel meter app on my phone. I called the non-emergency police line. A couple of times, officers showed up, but every time they knocked, the music had already been turned down. Jake, that was his name, would meet them at the door all smiles, shirt on, acting confused. "I don't hear anything," he'd say. "Maybe the guy's just got thin walls." And every time, the police would shrug, say they'd keep an eye on it, and drive off. And every time, 10 minutes later, the bass would start back up, louder than before. After 2 months of this, I was done. That's when I got the idea: floodlights. I bought 2 industrial-strength LED motion lights from Home Depot. Bright enough to light up a football field. I mounted them on the side of my house, aiming them straight at his 2nd-story bedroom window. The first night I flipped them on, his music stopped within 10 minutes. The next night, it took 15. 3rd night, no music. Nothing. I thought I won. But then, the note. It was folded, no envelope. Stuck in my mailbox. "You picked this fight." That was it. No name. No signature. Just 7 words that made my stomach twist. I didn't sleep well that night. And I wasn't wrong to be worried. Because the next part, that's when it got bad. The next night, I came home from work around 6 p.m. Everything looked normal, lights off at his place, no music. I parked in the driveway, walked up the steps, and that's when I noticed it. Someone had spit on my door. Not just a little spit. It was thick, smeared down the center of the glass pane like someone wanted to make sure I saw it. There were also fingerprints on the handle, like someone had pressed hard on it. I didn't have proof, but I knew it was him. Still, I didn't call the cops. I wiped it down and told myself to let it go. Maybe it was just one last act of pettiness before he gave up. I was wrong. The next morning, I found the front tire on my car completely flat. At first, I thought it was a nail. But when I looked closer, I saw the cut: long, deliberate, clean. Like someone took a box cutter to the sidewall. Same with the rear driver's side tire. That's when I finally called the police. They came, took a report. I showed them the note. I told them about the spit, the slashed tires. I even offered the logs I'd kept from the months before. But again, no witnesses. No camera footage. Nothing they could act on. You should get some cameras, the officer said. It might help if anything else happens. So I did. I went out that same day and bought a full security camera setup. 4 cameras, all motion activated, with night vision. 1 over my front door. 1 facing the driveway. 1 aimed at my backyard. And 1 mounted on the side of the house, angled toward Jake's place. Not inside his house, just the edge of the yard, in case he tried something. That weekend was quiet. No music. No lights from his place. He wasn't even home as far as I could tell. Sunday night, just past midnight, my phone pinged. Motion alert in the backyard. I opened the app and saw him. Jake. He was creeping along the edge of my fence, dressed in black. Hoodie, gloves. He had something in his hand, long and metal, and he was trying to reach the power cord to my floodlights. I hit the siren button on the app. The lights turned on full blast, and the alarm screeched through the yard. He froze for half a second, then bolted through the bushes back toward his house. I called the police immediately and sent them the footage. This time, they had what they needed. They showed up 20 minutes later and arrested him on the spot for trespassing and attempted vandalism. He didn't say a word when they put him in the car. Just stared at me from the back seat like this wasn't over. He posted bail the next day. And that's when the real game started. The next few days were quiet again. Almost too quiet. No music, no yelling, no lights from Jake's house at all. I didn't see him come or go. No packages. No trash cans moved. It was like the place was abandoned. But I knew better. Thursday night, I came home late from the hospital. I parked, checked the cameras like I always do now, and went inside. Nothing unusual. Until I went to grab a drink. I opened the fridge, and everything inside was warm. The light was on, but no hum from the motor. I checked the microwave. Dead. Then the stove. Nothing. I ran down to the basement and looked at the breaker box. The main switch was flipped off. I hadn't touched it. I flipped it back on and the power came back. I checked the cameras again, nothing. No alerts, no footage of anyone near the house. But the next morning, when I stepped into the yard, I found the answer. The side panel near the breaker box had been unscrewed. Not taken off, just loosened, barely noticeable unless you looked for it. I don't know how he got past the camera without setting it off. Maybe he timed it, or knew the blind spots. He was smart. I'll give him that. I screwed the panel back tight and set up an extra motion sensor on that side of the house. Then I went out and bought 2 more cameras. Smaller, harder to see, with audio recording. The night after that, I finally caught him talking. He was in his backyard, pacing, on the phone. The microphone picked up just enough to make it clear. I told him he picked this. I'm not letting it go. He wants a war, he's got one. I saved the audio. I backed it up on a hard drive. And I printed screenshots from the video just in case. The next morning, I called my lawyer. He told me to file for a restraining order. I did. But Jake must have found out. Or maybe he just didn't care. Because 2 nights later, my cameras caught something that made me feel sick. He was standing on the edge of my backyard, just standing, staring at my bedroom window. Not moving. Not trying to break in. Just watching. For almost an hour. The footage was grainy, but you could see his face. You could see the way he leaned his head slightly, like he was listening for something. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept every light on in the house. I stayed on the couch with a baseball bat in my lap. The next day, I took all the footage to the police again. They said they'd increase patrols. Said they'd keep an eye out. But Jake, he had already escalated. The following weekend, I got a knock on my door around noon. It was my boss's assistant from the hospital, Kelly. She looked uncomfortable. "Hey," she said, "I just wanted to let you know, someone called the ethics board about you." "What?" "Anonymous tip," she said. "Said you were stealing supplies. Meds, equipment. It's probably nothing, but they're looking into it." It wasn't true. I've never stolen anything in my life. But I knew exactly who called. Jake was trying to wreck my job now. He wasn't just being a bad neighbor anymore. He was trying to ruin my life. I spent the next 2 weeks living like I was under surveillance, because I basically was. I had to meet with the hospital's compliance officer. I was cleared, eventually, after they reviewed inventory logs and security footage, but the damage was already done. Word had gotten around. A few nurses I worked with started acting different, like they didn't know if they could trust me anymore. I could feel it. Jake didn't stop there. One morning I walked outside and found a dead squirrel on my porch. Its neck was twisted, body laid out carefully, like someone placed it there. Not a predator kill, it looked staged. I didn't take a picture. I just picked it up with a shovel and tossed it in the trash. That same afternoon, my internet went down. When the tech came out, he showed me the fiber line. It had been cut clean, right at the edge of my property. Right where my yard met Jake's fence. He was creeping closer and closer, doing just enough damage to make me feel crazy, but never enough for the police to act fast. So I started keeping a record of everything. Every odd sound, every camera clip, every little thing that felt off. I wrote it all down and took screenshots. I even started sending a nightly email to myself with the day's notes and footage, a digital trail. But I was starting to break down. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I couldn't. I felt exposed. I dragged a mattress into the living room and slept with the TV on, one eye on the security feed, one ear tuned for footsteps or car doors. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to a popping sound outside. Soft, quick, then silence. When I checked the cameras, my stomach dropped. There was a flash of flame near the fence. Just for a second. I ran outside with a fire extinguisher and found a small patch of grass still smoldering. There was an empty bottle lying nearby, glass, with a rag stuffed inside. He tried to light it, but must have chickened out or done it wrong. I called the cops again. This time, they actually took it seriously. They searched Jake's property, found a stash of bottles and a crate behind his garage. They took photos, collected evidence, and hauled him in again, this time on suspicion of arson. He was out the next morning. And then, nothing. No more attacks. No music. No notes. Just silence. It felt too quiet. A week went by. 2. Then I got a call from an unknown number at work. I picked up. A voice, low, calm, male, said, "We know what you did. Watch your back." And then it hung up. That was the moment I realized Jake wasn't working alone. After that call, everything in me tightened. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, even during basic tasks. I stopped going to the grocery store at night. I walked to my car scanning every corner. My front door stayed locked, double locked, even in the middle of the day. I filed another police report. They took it, noted the call, but there wasn't much else they could do. Could have been a prank, the officer said. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, it wasn't. I started digging into Jake. Turns out, he didn't own the house. He was renting it under someone else's name. No lease under his own. His record? Sealed in another state, but there were traces, a few arrests for assault, disturbing the peace, even a prior charge related to stalking. Nothing that stuck. I emailed everything I found to my lawyer. He told me to be careful. Told me if it were him, he'd consider moving. But I didn't want to move. I had lived in that house for 10 years. I'd buried my dog in the backyard. I'd painted the kitchen cabinets by hand. That was my home. Still, part of me started to wonder if he'd already won. If the goal all along was never the music, or the fight, but to make me leave. Break me. Take away my sense of safety. And I was close. I was so close. Then one morning, I got a text from one of the new cameras I had hidden behind my shed. Emotion alert. I checked the clip. It wasn't Jake. It was two guys. One had a hoodie, the other a hat pulled low. They were walking slowly, checking my windows. One tried the back door. I called the police, heart pounding. They showed up fast this time. I gave them the footage. This time, they acted. They arrested both men the same night. Turns out they were friends of Jake, guys with records. They'd been staying with him off and on. The charges stuck. And Jake? 3 days later, he was gone. The rental company showed up to clean out the house. No explanation. No notice. Just vanished. The cops wouldn't tell me anything, just said, "He's not your problem anymore." But I still watch the cameras. I still sleep in the living room. Because something in me changed. Not just from the noise, or the harassment, or the fear. It was that note, the one he left in my mailbox. "You picked this fight." I think about that sentence more than I want to admit. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he's still out there, waiting to finish what he started. I still keep that note, by the way. Taped inside the cabinet where I keep the batteries and flashlight, just in case. People ask why I don't throw it out. But I don't want to forget what it felt like to be afraid in my own home, or what I had to become to make it stop.